What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Valero Texas Open. And boy, do I have some big news at the top. We're obviously going to go through this field. We're going to use data. We're going to do all that fun stuff. But I do want to point out that I have pushed some big updates to the custom model this week. We'll still run a model at the end, but let me show you what's new here. And as you guys know, I'm always trying to make my website, RickRunGood.com, the best it can be. I'm always trying to make improvements, and this was a pretty big step in that direction. So there's four big things. There's a lot of other stuff that happened, but four big things. Number one, you can now, or I can now, support multiple slates at the same time, which means I can have the classic full tournament slate in here, round one, round two, late round one. I can have Live, I can have Corn Ferry, European Tour, I can have the Masters in here, which I already do, right? I've already got the Masters field loaded in so that you can tinker, you can run lineups, you can get stat support for everything, okay? And you can just flip back and forth. So there's now a drop down for multiple slates. There are more stats, right? I'm a stat guy. I like the more stats. So 24 new stats have been added. Some volatility, some strokes gain distribution numbers, how often they gain 0 strokes to the field, 1, 2, 3, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, we've got strokes gained by short courses, long courses, medium courses. We have strokes gained putting on different green speeds, slow, medium, fast, approach putt performance, bonus putting. We've got opportunities gained, opportunities plus gained, greens gained, a ton of other stuff. Now up to 143 different stats that you can choose. Notice that we are now tracking projected ownership. So Mike Cavalunas, who does a great job of doing the ownership projections, what we're going to have now is the ability to see what direction each player is trending in. So if in the first run, Taylor Montgomery is 10% owned, projected owned. In the second run, he's 12%. You're still going to see the projected ownership, but you're also going to see how he has changed since the last run, which is a nice little nugget. And then we're also going to start to run out beta projections for Showdown. So you're going to start seeing ownership projections for Showdown on the site here shortly. And then finally, for those of you who like to tinker, for those of you who like to get your hands dirty, you could always save a model. Now what you're able to do is download whatever model that you want. So for example, if I just download, let's just do this one here, it spits out a CSV. That'll look like this, and you can then adjust all of your weights as you wish here. You can make any calculations. You can update the max ownership, the projected ownership, the player value for every single player, and then import this back into the custom model. And then when you import it, everything will update here, and then you can generate lineups accordingly. So pretty cool. Those are four big ones that I'm proud of. I wanted to make sure we got it out before the Masters. So we have this week, and then obviously the Masters is next week. But the field is already loaded in, and when the salaries are updated, I'll include those. Oh, the other thing is when the wave information comes out, we'll show the wave information as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff in there, and really, really proud of this. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and we'll continue to make improvements as everything goes on. Okay, we'll run a model at the end of the show, but let's talk about the course this week. Let's talk about the field this week. So TPC San Antonio, it's the Oaks course. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward TPC. There is not a lot of super unique aspects to this. You look at the correlated stats, which is looking at the last handful of years in terms of stats for everybody on the PGA Tour and every stat on the PGA Tour, and then comparing that to the actual results. There's not a lot of stuff that stands out. What you'll notice is driving accuracy is not very important, and around the green play is quote most important. It's 17th, which means there's 16 other courses in which strokes gained around the green is more important. So the way that kind of goes to the eye test and what we know about this place is they are narrow fairways at TPC San Antonio, but the penalty for missing them into the rough is not very big, right? You can be in the rough. It's not a big deal. The only thing you can't do is miss big, which is something you see at a lot of like desert golf courses, right? Where you've got fairway, you've got rough, and then you've got desert. And as long as you keep it inside the desert, you're cool. It doesn't matter. Kind of similar here at TPC San Antonio. They have those like rocky areas where you can get into a lot of trouble. It's where Kevin Na made that 14 or 16 or whatever it was. Like that's in play. But as long as you're keeping it inside those lines, you're generally pretty good. And then while these greens are bigger than tour average, they're actually harder to hit than tour average, which is kind of a unique aspect. So around the green play does pop up more frequently. So we'll look at a couple of different off the tee stats, things like good drive percentage. Good drive percentage is a stat that says, did you either hit the fairway or hit the green or fringe in regulation? Basically, did you give yourself a chance to hit the green? It doesn't matter where you were if you weren't in the fairway. Did you give yourself a chance to hit the green, which I think is important. And then the other one will be distance from edge of fairway. That is a stat that says when you miss the fairway, how far did you miss it by? And guys that generally miss small are going to be a little bit better here. So all that said, we'll scroll down and we'll see the golfers that best fit this course here. And you can look at this for the last, 24 rounds, 36 rounds, whatever you want. It's entirely up to you. But last 24 rounds, let's go there. We don't usually do that. Let's go there. A couple of guys that fit the best. Chris Kirk gets the best adjusted fit. Terrell Hatton second. Sam Ryder third. Nick Taylor fourth. Ricky Fowler 5. How about that? I think I like all those guys this week. Maybe not Hatton as much, but sure, why not? That is important. So that says, okay, looking at everything that we know from above, and then taking the last 24 rounds, who should get the best bump, who should get the knocks, et cetera, et cetera. And it's Kirk, Hatton, Ryder, Taylor, and Fowler as the top 5. Hideki, Ben Martin, Matt Kuchar, Siwoo Kim, Ryan Fox round out the top 10. So interesting. Lots of names to talk about, which we will do right now. Let's go to the cheat sheet. Again, this is my website. It's RickRunGood.com, giant golf database for fantasy and golf wagering. Absolutely love it, and I hope you guys do as well. 4 golfers over $10,000. Terrell Hatton 10-9, Hideki 10-5, Ricky Fowler 10-2, Corey Connors 10-1. This is fairly straightforward for me. I think I'm on Hatton and Fowler. Let's make the case for everybody here. So here's Terrell Hatton. Despite 0-3 last week, the match play, not making it out of his group, obviously, he is still playing either the best or the second best golf in this field over the last 36 rounds. He loses 4 strokes putting at the match play. A little bit of wonky numbers, but the numbers are there. They're official. They're from the PGA Tour. He loses 1.7 strokes. It's not the end of the world, right? I mean, he played better than 0-3. He didn't play well. Probably should have been 1-2, 1-1-1, something like that. Or 0-1-2, something like that. So it's just, listen, you can throw it out, do whatever you want. So he is still one of the best players in the field over the last 36. I'm hoping that many people look at that 0-3 record and are not interested. We already saw that he is one of the best course fits that you can get out there. So happy to go back to Terrell Hatton in a situation where he might be a little bit under-owned. Hideki obviously raises a lot of concerns. He withdrew after a match or 2 matches at the match play. 10,500 is a lot to spend on that without having any more information there. Ricky Fowler. So Ricky played better than probably his record indicates. I think he was 2-1. He beat John Rahm, but did not get out of his group at the match play. And we're still seeing this great trend of golf from Ricky, right? We've got, this season's been phenomenal for him. He's been gaining multiple strokes on approach much more frequently. The putter is back. This is just a really seemingly good spot to deploy Ricky. The short game is stout. If he is missing greens, which a lot of people are going to do, you get access to him there. So I think there's going to be a lot of popularity for Ricky. I'm hoping Terrell Hatton goes a little bit under-owned. We can play the game theory game on Wednesday during the live chat, 3 p.m. Eastern time on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel. Corey Connors is fine, but when you're paying $10,100 for Corey Connors instead of like, $8,800, it's kind of a different story. Now you're asking Corey Connors to win. Is Corey Connors going to win this golf tournament? Well, probably not. I could say that for a lot of people in this field. Does Corey Connors have legitimate winning upside? Maybe not, right? So he Monday qualified into this event in 2019 and won it. It's very rare to do that. That's still his only win, right? The guy racks up top 20s, but does not win enough. Doesn't really contend all that frequently. So I think he's got high floor, pretty low ceiling. Actually, we can look into that in a second. So The other thing that worries me is, you look at the approach play. It's okay, right? He's lost strokes in 2 of his last 4. He's been going back to the last 5, which was Phoenix. He was basically a tour average player in Phoenix. Corey Connors needs to be gaining 2 to 4 strokes on approach every single tournament because the putter's bad, the around the green play is bad. Like, you can't be Corey Connors and be a slightly above average ball striker. And we're seeing that more frequently now. So that worries me. Speaking of the strokes gain distribution, I do want to look at that. So here's the last 36 rounds. This is on the power rankings, just sorted by salary. So Tyrrell Hatton is gaining strokes to the field 86% of the time in his last 36. Ricky Fowler, 70%. The other two, 55%. That's Hideki and Corey Connors. Gaining 1 or more stroke per round. Again, Hatton is 58, Fowler is 55. The other two are 41%. Gaining 2 strokes or more. This is where they start to separate themselves a little bit. Hatton is 41%. Ricky is 36. Hideki is 30. Corey Connors 22. 3 strokes or more. Fowler is 30 and a half. Hatton is 25. Hideki 16. Connors 8. The way that reads is basically in the last 36 rounds, Ricky Fowler is gaining 3 strokes or more 4 times as frequently as Corey Connors is. 4 or more. Ricky, 11%. Hatton and Hideki, 5.5%. Corey Connors, 2.7%. 5 or more. Hatton and Fowler are 5.5%. The other two are 2.7%. So this does provide the evidence of Corey Connors' high floor, low ceiling, which is not really all that great. Hatton, high floor, lower ceiling, but still a high ceiling. Fowler, decent floor, high ceiling. Hideki, kind of low floor, lowish ceiling type deal at this point in the last 36. But that's a really cool way to look at those 4 in that 10K range, which is really fun. So again, I'm probably living with Ricky. I'm probably living with Hatton. If it gets to a situation where Ricky's going to be super popular, I'll move some more shares to Tyrrell Hatton. I would probably feel comfortable moving more shares to Hideki than Connors. I just think that if you get like healthy 4 rounds of good Hideki, like, he can win the golf tournament. If I get 4 rounds of good ceiling Corey Connors, I'm still not sure he wins the golf tournament. So that's kind of where I'm at with those guys. The 9K range. So lots to parse through here. Taylor Montgomery, Siwoo Kim, Davis Riley, Chris Kirk, Matt Kuchar, Ryan Fox. We saw that Chris Kirk was one of the better course fits. He also has 2 top 10 finishes here in his last 4 trips. Actually, both of them were top 8s. You do get a lot of pretty decent course history in this range. Kuchar, who is coming off of the match play success, finished runner-up here last year. He has 3 straight top 12s. Let's do a deep dive on Kuchar. It's somebody we probably don't deep dive enough. Kuchar at one point was a pretty high floor golfer, and who knew what his ceiling was. And as he's evolved to this point in his career, you're getting a much more volatile Matt Kuchar, which I think is generally good. He finishes 8th at Riviera, misses the cut at both the Honda and the Players, then wins his group at the match play, and then is now going back to a place he's had a ton of good success at. So let's look at his Valero history here. And I'll actually throw in, 2008 as well. I mean, he hasn't missed a cut since 2012. So he's played this, 10 times? He's made the cut in 9 in a row, with the last 3 being all top 12s, and he's got a bunch of other top 15s and top 20s along the way. So if you're going to try to pick and choose the spots for Kuchar, this feels like a pretty decent one, and he's now, much more volatile, which, I argue is a pretty good thing. Siwoo, how about this? So let's pull up the Siwoo Valero stuff here. Let's start with that. So T4, T23, T13 in the last 3 years, he has gained a ton of strokes in the ball striking categories, but even more importantly, he's gained 5 straight trips with the putter at TPC San Antonio. I'll look this up, but I imagine this is probably one of his best putting spots on the tour. Now, that is even through a lot of putting struggles, and obviously now he's using a different putter. He's using that broomstick, and he's actually turning into a better putter in general, like statistically longer term. So there is a lot to like about this. And it's weird. He's like not switching bodies with Kuchar, but like now Siwoo's even getting more consistent, which is fine. He still has that massive upside to gain 8 strokes on approach, which he did in Houston. He did at the Sony. He did the Players Championship, and now he's a better putter. Like, the putting has really added some consistency to Siwoo's game. So I like where he's at there. Let me see if this is his best putting place ever. It's actually his 4th best putting course. TPC Summerlin number 1, Augusta National number 2, Torrey Pines, the South Course number 3, TPC San Antonio number 4. He only has 5 courses in which he's played at least, I think I have this set to like 20 rounds right now, that he is gaining strokes with the putter. Only 5 courses in which he gained strokes with the putter. This is one of them, and it's his 4th best. Here's the other thing with this range. So this is that distance from edge of fairway stat where it's basically like how big do you miss when you miss. So like Ricky Fowler, unfortunately, when he misses pretty big. Corey Connors does not. He's like one of the best at this. Siwoo also very good at this. 7th on tour, which means there's only 6 other guys that miss as less wild as he does. He misses by 20 feet on average when he misses. I'm going to talk myself into a lot of Siwoo Kim this week. I can already feel this happening. Kuchar, same thing. Kuchar's 12th on tour. We don't have Ryan Fox. Ryan Fox does not have enough PGA Tour rounds to qualify for this statistic, but he is generally quite inaccurate. But he hits it a mile. I would love to know how much he's missing by. Feels like it could be pretty big, but I don't have the numbers to back that up. Also, just kind of look at, the types of golfers. Like Kuchar's had a ton of success here. He misses small. Siwoo has had a ton of success here. He misses small. Corey Connors has had a ton of success here. Misses small. Here's JJ Spawn, our defending champion. Misses small. 10th on tour. Just like, yeah, it makes sense. Keep it in play. That's kind of like a big deal around here. So, pretty interesting little nuggets there. So where I'm at on this 9K range is probably Kuchar, probably Siwoo Kim. Those are names that I generally do not say a lot. And then we'll kind of go from there in terms of game theory. I could probably get back to Chris Kirk. I could probably get to Davis Riley. Davis Riley, let's pull up Davis Riley's numbers real quick. As much as I love the way he strikes it, gaining 2 strokes or more off the tee in 3 of his last 4 stroke play events. I like the way he's hitting it on approach. This worries me. The short game's really, really bad, especially around the green. There's going to be some trouble spots around the green this week. And there's going to be places where these guys are either have the opportunity to gain or lose strokes. And unfortunately for Davis Riley, he's probably giving them back in that scenario. So probably someone that I wouldn't be targeting too frequently there. Let's go to the 8s. The $8,000 range led by JJ Spawn goes down to Nikolai Højgaard. Okay, who's coming off the runner-up finish at Punta Cana. So here's where you get a couple of the steamers from Punta Cana. Remember that we had 2 events last week. So we had the match play, but they were also in Corrales. So Matt Wallace, who was last week's winner, is here. So Wallace has now gone win and 7th in his last 2 starts. He finished 3rd here a couple of years ago in 2021. That's kind of interesting. Thomas Dietrich, I'll show you him in a second. And then we get Nikolai Højgaard, who finished runner-up. So let's kind of cover a couple of these guys. Let's start with Wallace. Okay, let's see what he's been. I mean, it's always a little weird when you get your first PGA Tour victory and then you play the next week. And obviously, there's a lot to play for coming off like an alternate field victory. But he's been playing much, much better. Look at the approach numbers, man. This is pretty darn strong. Plus 3.5 at Valspar, plus 1 at the Players. He missed the cut that week. Plus 8 at the Honda, plus 2 at Riviera. Missed the cut. Generally a gainer on approach. Now, we don't get the breakdown from Punta Cana. They don't have the shot length data there, but we can probably assume it was more of the same. Better around the green than a lot of the other ball strikers, and he's an okay to slight positive putter. And that's a pretty good combination. You'd have to figure out the narrative stuff of, hey, he's coming off a win. Does he take a breath and not really, did he spend too much time celebrating or what? A guy who's probably still stuck in his routine is Thomas Dietrich. And if you've been following along, we talk a lot about Thomas Dietrich. Finished T8 in Punta Cana last week. He's very well-rounded. He has a good short game. The putter can get hot. He withdrew from the Honda with an illness. If you throw that out, he's only missed 1 cut in his last 17 starts, and a lot of them are top 20, top 30 finishes. Now he gets a little bit of a weaker field. Do not mind Thomas Dietrich whatsoever. Who was the 3rd guy that we wanted to look at? Oh, Højgaard. Okay, yeah. So again, this is why you got to have access to all the data. Sick plug for RickRunGood.com, right? Because if you did not know anything about Nikolai Højgaard and you did not have access to European Tour data, the last finish that you would have had for Højgaard before his runner-up last week would have been the Open Championship, T53. And you would have missed all of this great play. You would have missed the T5 at Thailand where he gained 7 strokes ball striking, the T13 at the Ras Al Khaimah Championship where he gained 10.5 ball striking, the T10 at Abu Dhabi where he gained 9 in the ball striking categories, right? Like, this was pretty clearly one of the best players in the field last week. And if you are not on RickRunGood.com, that would have been a lot harder to find. And then he finishes runner-up. So, yeah, this kid's a stud. Him and his brother are studs, right? And he's trying to figure out, sometimes it takes these guys a little bit to get worked into their first, PGA Tour start after coming over. No time taken for Højgaard. So I think at $8,000, that is a very generous price tag for someone who is probably better than a lot of the other guys in this range. The one other guy that I did want to just keep an eye on for trends, I'm pretty much lukewarm on Cam Davis, but longer term, I've been very warm on Cam Davis, is, we wanted to see what was happening since he told us about that illness that he couldn't shake for a while. So he finishes T6 at the Players' Championship. Then he plays okay. He finishes 17th, barely misses out on getting out of his group at the match play. And if you look at the advanced metrics, you are starting to see some positive signs. The putter is back on track. He lost strokes with the putter in 6 straight. He's generally a pretty good putter. Now he's gaining again. The approach play needs to come back a little bit, but he's driving it well enough. So I think we are getting an upward trend on Cam Davis. I might give it one more week, see where we're headed. But I think when we get into the dog days of summer, Cam Davis is going to be someone to continue to keep an eye on. While we're talking about trends, let me pull up the trends tool. So the way that this works is it takes every golfer's 100 round baseline, and then you can plug in whatever you want, last 36, last 24, last whatever number of rounds that you want. And it says, are they playing above or below that baseline? And there's kind of some good and bad things to glean here. So if you just look at raw strokes gained, Harry Higgs is playing nearly a full stroke over his 100-round baseline right now, which in theory, that's good. However, how he's doing it, not very sustainable. He is actually losing to his 100-round baseline in the ball striking categories, and he is losing from tee to green, and he is doing it all basically via the putter and the around the green play. That is very scary. Ricky Fowler. How is he doing it? Yes, he's been a little bit better with the putter, but he's a half a stroke better on approach than his 100-round baseline. That's really good. So if we sort this by guys that are like better from tee to green than their baseline, the notables, Nikolai Højgaard, Garrick Higgo, Terrell Hatton, Ben Martin, Eric Cole. Also, I have a handy breakout chart for you. So you want to be in the upper left hand of this chart. It's guys that are getting unlucky putting below their baseline, but hitting it better than their baseline. And Bo Hostler is in the mix. Matt Wallace, Aaron Rye, Matt Kuchar, Garrick Higgo, Brandon Matthews, Cole. This is all to their own baseline, right? So if you stink and you're getting better, like it's relative, but the guys that we're already identifying that are popping up here again, interesting. Hatton and Fowler are both in the second best quadrant that you can be in. That's good from tee to green. They're getting a little lucky putting, a little bit above their baseline, but they're still hitting it better than you would expect. The guys that you would want to avoid would be like your Matty Schmid, Taylor Pendrith, Martin Laird. They're putting over their baseline and not hitting it as well, which is super, super scary stuff. So very cool little tool there, and kind of helps identify what else is going on in this $8,000 range. I will also point out before we move on, not that I have a very strong take on this, but Adam Schenk, that runner-up at Valspar feels like a decade ago, and I think that is how people are going to treat that. He did not play either event last week. He's missed the cut in his last 2 trips here, but he did finish 7th in 2019. So is there a chance that Adam Schenk is playing very confident golf, likes to where his game is at, and goes back to a place that he's had success? I think that is a reasonable argument. I'm probably not going to get there because I like some other guys better, but worth noting, Adam Schenk, better at golf than most people would probably realize. So before we get to the sevens, let me just show you the best players since 2017 at the Valero Texas Open. I'm looking for kind of double-digit rounds. Like Lucas Glover's got 12 rounds here, plus 2.15. He finished T18 in 2022, fourth in 2021, and then T14 in 2019. So that's 3 really strong starts there. Obviously, Corey Connors shows up. Couple guys with small sample sizes. Kevin Chappell, what's he been up to? He's 6,700. He won this event. He missed the cut. Yeah, it's not super great. Streelman's in here, 3 straight top 20s, but that's 2018, 2019, 2022. So he did not play this in 2021. I'm just trying to see if anybody jumps off the page at me. Eric Van Rooyen, he's only played this once. It was 2021, T14. He's playing better golf, and he's in the 7K range. So let's just go to him before I show you the cheat sheet. Like, let's just deep dive Eric Van Rooyen, or I believe is actually pronounced Eric Van Rooyen is the way that the South Africans would pronounce this. So a little bit disappointing in Punta Cana because he was coming off a T10 at Valspar, then finished T56. Again, we don't have the strokes game breakdown there, so we don't really know. But he's definitely playing better golf. He was horrid to end 2022. Probably goes home to South Africa. He definitely went home to South Africa because he played the South African Open in December. He played the Alfred Dunhill Championship. Started to turn things around after that. So I don't know if he found something, if he got a little bit of clarity, if he worked with his coach. I don't know, but he's playing better since then. Would not mind investing a little bit there. The rest of the 7K range. So we've got Aaron Rye, Brendan Todd at the top, and it goes down to Lee Hodges, MJ Duffy, those guys. Let me point out one thing on Andrew Putnam real quick. And I do have last week's match play stats loaded into RickRunGood.com. Again, there's going to be issues with that. Not everybody plays the same number of holes, and match play is pretty wonky when it comes to, like concessions and stuff like that. But it's the official numbers. They come straight from the PGA Tour. Let me show you. I'm actually going to show you of like everyone who played last week. Andrew Putnam was probably the luckiest guy in the field. He lost 5.5 strokes off the tee. He lost 3.5 on approach. He lost 5 in total over 4 matches and got out of his group. And that's kind of how match play is just weird like that, right? Like you just kind of get lucky at the right holes, the right times. You don't have to play all that well if your opponents are playing worse. Of all the guys who are in this field, Putnam was the 4th worst at match play last week and the only guy to get out of his group. He's the only guy who is in this field who lost strokes last week who made it out of his group. Think about that. So I think that's a little bit of fool's gold if you're trying to go back to Andrew Putnam. Let's go to Sam Ryder because I think this is much more interesting. We talked about him earlier as being one of the better course fits. You're starting to see him get. I don't love how reliant he has been on his short game. That's not really his true DNA though. So he's better on approach than he's shown in his last 2 starts. But what I do like is that he's now played 6 in a row where he's got 4 top 20s. And some of them are pretty stout events, right? Like Farmers, the T4, Phoenix and Riviera, back-to-back T20s, then the T19 at Valspar in his most recent start. I think something has been brewing for Sam Ryder, and I think it's going to continue to brew. So the absolute dart throw no ownership guy is probably Beau Hossler here. We saw him in that breakout candidates tool where are you trying to be early or late on all of these guys? If you're trying to be early on Beau, now's the time, right? He's missed 4 cuts in a row. 3 of them were pretty stout events. Before that, he had back-to-back top 15 finishes. He is well below his putting baseline. He's a very, very good putter. If that bounces back, there's a really good opportunity for him to contend. This is a much weaker field. You look at what he's done at the Valero. He's made 4 cuts in a row, including a T4 last year. This would be just like your dart throw beat early on a guy. That's Beau Hossler. You have to decide whether you want that, but I think he would be the interesting guy. We talked about Garrick Higo a little bit. Higo's playing much better. The tee to green game's coming back. He's got to roll the rock fairly well to contend, but he's playing better golf. There's also some really interesting options at the bottom of the 7K range. I sorted this by strokes gained total, and we've got Padraig Harrington and Akshay Bhatia. So we've got some caveats for both of these guys. So Patty obviously has been doing a lot of his damage on the Champions Tour, which is also on RickRunGood.com. So he's got the T7 in Newport, but he's got so he's played 2 PGA Tour events, Honda and the API. He made the cut at both of those. He played a couple of European Tour events. He actually finished 4th in Abu Dhabi, finished T25 at the Ras Al Khaimah Championship. He dominates on the Champions Tour. He's a stallion. I'm lukewarm on that. And then Akshay, who gets in late on a Monday last week in Punta Cana, then finishes T24, and honestly had kind of a disappointing weekend, right? Went out and shot something crazy on Friday, 62 something out. I think he went 72-62 or something like that to start the championship, and then kind of faded a bit on the weekend. But man, this dude has firepower, a ton of firepower. Runner up in Puerto Rico, he made the cut at the Honda, missed it at the Valspar. Look at these results. I mean, is there anybody? How many guys in the field? I don't care what field it is that they played in, have 3 starts where they've gained double-digit strokes in their last 8. Probably not many. And Akshay is on that short list. Super, super high upside. Super interesting golfer. Has he played Valero before? I feel like the answer is yes. Yeah, he has. Missed the cut in 2021, so a couple years ago. But man, unlimited firepower with this kid. The sixes. Okay. Well, we talked about Lucas Hubbard's results around here. He's $6,900. He finished 36th at the Valspar, 51st at the Players Championship. He's playing better, and he's accurate off the tee, which is always good. How about, I like to show you guys, like, guys that you might not stumble upon yourselves, right? So there's a couple guys we have to look into here. One is Kazuki Higa. So Kazuki Higa, here he is again. Stat profile at RickRunGood.com has his European tour and his Asian tour stuff. So the last event that we have for him of the 6 tours that I track was the Hero Indian Open. That was about a month ago. He finished T4 and he gained 10 strokes in the ball striking categories. Splendid. Thailand, he finished T11 the week before that. The week before that, he finished 13th on the Asian tour. The week before that, he finished T36 at the Ras Al Khaimah. So he's got a pretty decent stretch of golf right now. He played the Zozo, gained strokes to the field, finished 36th. He played the Sony Open. He made the cut and finished 72nd. Talented guy here. Has he played I cannot imagine he's played the Valero before, right? No, he's not. Okay. The other one I wanted to look at was, I wanted to see how Doug Gim was doing it, because Gim has got 2 good starts in a row. And I wanted to see if we could glean anything from this. Actually, 3 out of his last 4 haven't been bad. He made the cut at Riviera, which is a stacked field. He finished 27th at the Valspar, and he finished T16 in Punta Cana last week. Not a lot of information to glean. He did gain 5 strokes from tee to green at the Valspar. We don't know how he did it in Punta Cana. I don't mind going back to Doug Gim. Doug Gim's probably 100 round baseline, or at least like the play from 2021, 2022 was way better for modeling, right? He was a tee to green guy who lost strokes with the putter. Then he kind of lost everything. Are we seeing an upward trend? Are we? Again, if you're trying to be early on someone, maybe Doug Gim is not the worst guy in the world to be early on. He's also played this event 4 times. He's made the cut in 3 of them, has 2 top 25s. So I'm happy to go back to Ryan Gerard off a missed cut last week, and now he's $6,600, which is way too cheap. And also, I want to see Brent Grant. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and he had another top 10 last week. Let me just make sure he's the only other guy I want to look at before we run a model here. Okay, let's look at Brent Grant, friend of the pod, Brent Grant. Yeah, okay. We've got the T8 in Punta Cana, the 4 strokes he gained ball striking at Valspar but missed the cut. Not good. T40 at Puerto Rico, withdrew from the Honda. Then he had a couple of good finishes here. T25 at the Farmers, T20 in Pebble Beach. So this is by far the best stretch of PGA Tour golf that he's had. The first part of the season was not good for him. He missed a lot of cuts. Starting to get a little bit better right now. Building that confidence. He hits it a long way. I've seen him out there. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He can move it. We're going to need him to putt well. But at 6,400, certainly not the end of the world. Let's run a model. Brand new custom model, RickRunGood.com. Well, brand new updates, I guess I should say. Let's use some of the new stats. Like, you knew I was going to do that, right? So here's what I want to do. Actually, hold on. Let me get the boring stuff out of the way. Let's do 10 on strokes gained TPC San Antonio. Okay, just give you a little bit of course history here. Then let's go to driving and say, like, I think 20 on good drive percentage, right? Like, you gotta be pretty stout, don't you? Right? So 20 on good drive percent. Approach, let's just do let's go to strokes gained and do last 36 strokes gained approach for 10. Let's do last 50 strokes gained around the green for 15, a little bit more. And then we'll just put 10 on putting last 36. Okay, so that leaves us with 65. Now, I want to get into, I want to do strokes gained distribution. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 15 weights on this, but I'm going to put 5 on strokes gained 3 or more, 5 on strokes gained 4 or more, and 5 on strokes gained 5 or more. So I'm putting 15 on the distribution stats. That leaves me with 20 remaining. I could do opportunities gained. That would be pretty good. I could do fantasy points gained. I could do implied win percentage. What do I want to do with my last 20 here? Let's do opportunities. I could do opportunities plus gained for 10. So that's shots inside of 10 feet for birdie. And then let's do our last 10 on. The problem with this is there's now so many options that it's hard to be like, oh, let me figure this out. Let's just do it on fantasy points gained. Playing a fantasy point thing. Okay. Wow. Oh boy. Wow. Wow. Okay. Number 1 is Chris Kirk. Number 2 is Matt Kuchar. Number 3 is Hideki. The thing is with Hideki is when he plays pretty good. It just doesn't play all that much. I'm going to lose so much money on Siwoo Kim this week. Siwoo is 4th for me. Brendan Todd, Ricky Fowler. Putnam is 7th. I will not fall for that. Akshay is 8th. Shelton is 9. Benyon is 10. Terrell is 11. 14th is Corey Connors. Just kind of looking through some notables. Wow. So Siwoo at 97. Brendan Todd at 79. Chris Kirk and Matt Kuchar. Wow. It's that kind of week, huh? Okay. That's fun. Also, could do the Masters. If you ran that same model, which I don't know why you would because it has TPC San Antonio strokes gained, but if you ran that same model for the Masters field right now, Scotty would be number 1 by a mile. John Rahm 2, Rory 3, Sung J 4. I don't know why you would do this. I just like the idea that I can flip back and forth. This is meaningless, by the way. But so don't actually listen to this. I just like that that I can look at it. Okay, cool. There you have it. Fun. I really appreciate you guys' support. Without your support, I could not make updates to RickRunGood.com, try to make it the best thing in the entire world, which I hope that it is. And yeah, more content coming this week. I'll talk to you guys soon. Good luck.